For this video, I challenged myself to one-shot every boss in Genshin Impact with Arlecchino, but without using her normal attack or burst. I am also going to show you a hidden technique almost nobody knows about, and the last one-shot attempt might surprise you. The rules are simple. We don't use normal attacks or burst. We only use Arlecchino's C2 extra damage, and for people who don't know what it does, when absorbing Blood Dew, she unleashes Bale Moon Bloodfire, which deals 900% of her attack as pyro damage on an AoE around her. Also, we can use any kind of buffs like food and other characters. When using charge attack to absorb, we are not allowed to hit the charge attack. That means if we want to absorb a Blood Dew, we have to use her charge attack, which can still hit the enemy before the C2 extra damage takes place. But that's not too bad, because with that rule we can actually trigger a reaction with a C2, like Melt or Vaporize. My Arlecchino stats are currently 2516 attack with 75% crit rate over 174% crit damage. She uses her signature weapon on Refinement 5, the new artifact set, and is max Constellations. For this video we will only focus on all bosses of Mondstadt. Against the first boss, we are using Kazuha, Bandit and Iona as supports. We are also using the food buff from Adeptus Temptation. Our plan is to first use Arlecchino's E to mug the boss and swirl Pyro with Kazuha. Then we use Bandit's Burst and Iona's E and Burst. The last step is absorbing the Blood Dew and hoping that the C2 will one-shot the enemy. The first boss we are facing is the Cryo Regisvine. This boss has quite low HP and shouldn't be a big problem for us. So we just go into his cave, we use our E and then we swirl the Pyro. Then we need to take a step back and use Bandit's Burst, then Iona's E and also Burst, and then we just hope we one-shot the enemy. In the end, this boss was really easy to one-shot. But let's see if the next boss will be as easy as that. The second boss will be the Electro Hypostasis, but there was one major issue. This enemy is an elemental life form, which means that this in particular can't take any electro damage, but also can't be applied with any other element other than electro, and therefore we can't swirl Pyro for the Viridescent Vanera artifact set bonus. Or can we? After realizing that I need to build a different team without Kazuha for the swirl and Iona for the cryo application, I researched about other characters who could buff, and after some research I found a post with a specific term of a secret technique. It was a technique I have never heard before in the more than 3 years by now of playing this game. They called it Grober Swirl. Basically, this is a technique to swirl Pyro onto enemies you can't swirl otherwise, like all the Hypostasis or all of those Hydro enemies. It works exclusively only for Sucrose and is super easy once you got the feeling for the timing. It has the same concept like swirling a torch or a campfire in the overworld. Jungling's little bear Grober when used spits fire, and you can use this fire to swirl. The timing is easy. Right after you see the exclamation marks above Grober, you simply press E with Sucrose. If timed well, you will catch the flames produced by Grober and Pyro swirl the enemy. And with this technique in my arsenal, I was finally ready to continue the challenge, to one-shot the next boss, to overcome this challenge and claim the crown. But then I just discarded this idea and used other characters instead. For the second boss, the Electro Hypostasis, we are swapping out Iona for Zhongli and Kazuha for Kujusara. Against that boss we're waiting for exactly that attack because it gives us the most setup time. And then we just go in and mark the enemy, we swap out to Zhongli, use his E, Bandit's Burst, Kujusara's E, and then we just clap the enemy. The following boss is quite similar because it's just a different hypostasis. In fact, it is the Anemo Hypostasis. For the next boss we just wait until he tries to suck us in, Then we just use our setup. And just like that, he's dead. The next boss is perhaps the easiest boss of them all to one-shot. The boss we will face next is the Cryo Hypostasis. This boss will always be affected by cryo, hence it is easy to trigger melt reactions. The last bosses we are facing are Dvalin and Andrius. But for some reason the Dvalin fight is bugged and we can't absorb Blood Depth and therefore need to skip this boss. That means the final boss for Mondstadt we are fighting in this video will be the big wolf weekly boss Andrius. This boss, if dealt enough damage, can be one-shotted before his second phase begins. But as a weekly boss, this enemy will be much tougher. Also, this enemy is immune to Anemo and Cryo, which means Kazuha and Diona can't deal damage, but it doesn't mean they can't swirl Pyro nor apply Cryo onto the enemy. With that in mind, we can just use the same tactic we used when fighting the Regisvine. And then this happened. This boss took me a lot of tries because he always jumps around and would dodge my attack. But in the end, I managed to one-shot even the last boss. I also forgot to use food for destroy and would actually deal even more damage. And that's all for this video. We actually managed to one-shot every boss in Mondstadt with only using Arlecchino's C2. If you liked the idea and want me to also attempt to one-shot the bosses of other regions, please give this video a thumbs up so I know you want more. This video was very time consuming. It took me many tries to get the final clips ready, as well as a lot of research and editing. I would be very happy if you would subscribe to my channel to appreciate my work. Anyways, it was also very fun to record this video and I hope I will see you in the next one. Peace!